Thank you for joining us today here in the Church of Christ, or in Filipino, Iglesia ni Cristo. Iglesia ni Cristo because the Church of Christ re-emerged in the Philippines. I'm Brother Bob Pauline. Now, some of you here with us probably already belong to a church, but out of the kindness of your heart, you have accepted the invitation maybe of a friend or a co-worker, or perhaps you are searching and decided to include the Church of Christ in your pursuit of finding the church that will lead to salvation. Now, if you already belong to a church, chances are it's a church you may have been born into. And we can certainly understand why people prefer to stay with, what's comfortable and what's familiar. Choosing a church may not be so simple when you consider that, in America alone, there's about 350,000 religious congregations. So how does one even begin to see which one is the true church as described by Christ that He would save? Well, today we'll give you a series of questions to ask to see if the church you currently belong to is indeed the church that Christ will save. Well, let's start with the name. I'm sure you've seen signs of unusual church names, such as these that have certainly stopped you in your tracks. So, stop and ask, is the name of my church found in the Bible? And is it the church Christ referred to in Matthew 16:18, when He said, I will build my church? And if the name of your church is in the Bible, are all its teachings and doctrines biblical? Or are some man-made practices? The next question to ask is, is the church I belong to prophesied in the Bible that would emerge in these last days? And does its history coincide with prophecy? And lastly, ask yourself this question. Are the preachers and ministers in my church recognized and sent by God to preach?
Here on Detroit's northeast side, there is sadness as parishioners, many of them with roots in this once thriving Polish-American community, gather one last time for Mass here at St. Louis the King Catholic Church.
We've seen the headlines. Churches closing due to dwindling membership and a growing number of preachers leaving the faith and becoming atheists, or so-called spiritual leaders making headlines for immoral conduct. So, how can we really know if the one preaching to us is really sent by God to care for our souls? Here in the Church of Christ, all the questions we posed to you have very clear and definite Bible-based answers. We hope you will take the time to find out. But in the meantime, ask these same questions back to your ministers and pastors, because you, as a member of their church, deserve to know the answers. We hope you will continue to search for the truth and find out more about the Church of Christ. Learn how this church, which reemerged from a far country in the East 100 years ago, has been able to spread worldwide without any government assistance or business ventures and without tithing, but purely on the voluntary offerings of its members. In the past 100 years, it has changed millions of lives all around the world. Is yours next?
That it was like a light bulb went on in my head. And sometimes some people say that when you realize that you have the truth, it's like there's like a peace that comes over you, and you just can't describe how you feel when you know what someone is telling you is the absolute truth.
So I was just wondering, how come none of those things were told to me? And why is this suddenly I get to know something different?
brought my Bible, I brought my notebook. And the most amazing thing is that in that 30 minutes, I was just hearing scripture the whole time.
Finally, a church that actually makes sense.
Sign up for free Bible classes today and get the answers to the questions we just posed to you about the Church of Christ, and see how it can change and transform your life. Thanks again for coming. We hope to see you back soon.